so activity 4.4, you did half of it last Friday. We finished it up today. You took a look at something called an anecdote, and you watched someone present an anecdote aloud with that video clip of Jerry Seinfeld's Halloween. And then yesterday we read the humorous essay excerpt Brothers, and you started writing your own anecdote. So how is activity 4.4 of looking at anecdotes, both ones spoken aloud and ones that we read, preparing you to write an essay where you analyze a humorous text? Go ahead and write your purpose statement. Once you've got your purpose statement written down, you can flip to the back side. I know some of you tend to start with that first. That's fine. If you take a look at the class bookmark, back wall, you're going to see that 4.4 had you practice 5 out of the 9 concepts that your essays will be graded on. So you practice concepts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 8. 4.4 had you practice concepts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 8. But once you've got that stuff cataloged, you might have noticed too that the 7th concept about a conclusion, the 9th concept about your conventions or grammar, there's some stuff written down for you to write as well, so make sure to take care of that. Once you're done with it, put that bookmark to the side. You will refer back to it today, so wherever it's an easy spot for you to grab it again. And open up this thing to page 252. If you've got a highlighter, pull it out. All right, once you're at 252, take those learning targets, diffuse them, so break them apart. So with this guy, we circle on the separate and then we underline any lines, and that just lets us know that we're practicing in an activity. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, so with these 2 learning targets, you probably already took care of them because I'm hearing a lot of chatter. First goal, you folks are collaborating or we're working together to analyze a humorous essay. Second, you're going to be writing how an author conveys a universal truth. You folks already practiced this with 4.4 with the Jerry Seinfeld piece, so this is kind of a repetitive motion. Reading another essay, practicing analyzing it, explaining. That's the whole process of your EA, so we're going to keep doing it again and again and again so you get better. All right, below that, we've got step 1. That's got a series of 3 boxes. It tells us to read and respond to a quote. So, Christian, could you read the quote by George Bernard Shaw?
The power of Congress makes the last, and when they have their mouth open, and they need to say within the truth.
Okay, now what we're supposed to do after that quote is we provide an interpretation. I'm going to give you my interpretation a copy. Yeah, that's fine. If you want to get some water, go for it. All right, here's my interpretation of the quote. Yours might be a little bit different, but I'm going to have you copy this one down that's on the screen. Remember, if you see red ink, make sure you copy it down. I think what Shaw's trying to tell us is that when people have their guard down, that's when you tell them the truth. So don't hit them with a reality right away. Maybe do something like make them laugh, make them comfortable, and then go ahead and tell them what they need to hear. After we interpret the quote, it says to provide personal commentary. Now, here's my commentary. You can copy it down. If you want to write your own commentary, go for it. But again, what I'm thinking Shaw is telling us as well is the idea that a lot of people, they're more receptive, or they're willing to listen to the truth of something that's serious when it's discussed in a funny way. So don't give me the super Debbie Downer idea of death. Make it kind of funny, and then go ahead and tell me the reality about it. Comedians do this all the time with serious social issues like racism or police brutality. They do this with issues in politics a lot as well. You might remember a couple years ago when we started getting these weird health scares of Ebola. It was this constant joke of, oh, if someone coughs on my donut, gonna get Ebola, gonna die. And mosquitoes and malaria got people a little bit scared, so comedians are making jokes of, if you get bit, you're gonna die in a week, Just trying to lighten the whole situation, but still trying to put out a point. Be careful out there, things could happen. Okay, now number 2 is definitely all your interpretation. I'm not going to do number 2 for you, but it's a pretty basic question. So Jaden, can you read number 2 for us?
Why might people use coffee to discuss serious or important topics?
So question 2 is pretty much what we've already gone over. Just write your own answer for number 2. So we're giving a little bit of an indicator right even before we read this piece today. We're probably talking about a serious topic, but it's going to be brought up in a funny way. All right, now, right below step 2, step 3 is talking about what we have to do while we're reading today. So watch the screen. You're going to make a couple of highlighted marks, and you're also going to write a note down as well. One thing that we're going to do while we're reading is we're going to mark the text, and we're going to make 3 distinct marks, okay? One mark you might or might not make. Write an asterisk or a star by something that you want to discuss. Okay, again, you might or might not need to discuss anything. Second mark you can make is the question mark. Something pops up, you're not quite sure what's going on, put a question mark next to it, ask it. The third mark I definitely want to see in this piece that we read today, exclamation mark, and that's going to stand for, this is funny. This is intended to be a funny piece. So maybe you don't have a super loud response to it, but you realize, okay, this is supposed to be humorous. So that I definitely want to see. Now, right below those marks that you made, there's something else that we're going to be focusing in on, and it's a vocab word that you probably don't remember at all. You probably copied it down, never to see it again, but you are today. It's something called juxtaposition. We're going to be focusing on that idea while we read. So copy down this definition. It's a lot simpler than the one that you copied in your raw notebook. Juxtaposition is when we take items and arrange it so we can compare them. So we could compare people, we could compare creatures, we could compare objects, we could compare events or places. Now you folks see this a lot. You see juxtaposition tons of times in school. Okay, now you may just not realize it because, hey, that word, it's not, a normal word that a lot of us say. But I'm going to have you copy down this example because I'm sure you folks can recall it. Back in 7th grade, you read the novel Tangerine, especially if you were here at Salisbury at a Springboard school, you read it. And there was juxtaposition in 2 major characters of that novel. You had Paul, the 12, 13-year-old boy that was almost legally blind. He was the good son of the family, he was playing soccer, he got forced to move to Florida, and he was trying to find himself. He was a good one. And then you had the complete opposite. You had the older brother, Eric, who, honest to goodness, he was the evil kid. This was the kid that ended up killing another student at the high school he went to. Whether he believed he did it on purpose or not is irrelevant. He killed a child. And he also blinded his younger brother, Paul, when he was a little boy. So the idea of comparing 2 characters, that's juxtaposition. And you're going to see it multiple times in our reading that we look at today. I'll help you out with one. Another one will probably be a little bit obvious to you, and there's more than the 2 that I'm going to showcase. Okay? Did you have your hand up a minute ago, or did I just imagine it? Okay. All right. So if you take a look at the top of page 253, there's the quick background of our author. Dave Barry is an author that we're going to read multiple times leading up to your essay. He's got some humorous stuff out there. It's pretty easy to follow. He's a Pulitzer Prize winner. He has a lot of humorous commentary on social issues. So he talks about racism and politics and health scares. He does that a lot. So this is Dave Barry's essay. I've got a few pet peeves about sea creatures. So make sure that you're making marks as we go along. There's a couple that I will be making you create while we read too. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Pets are good because they teach kids important lessons about life. The main one being that sooner or later, life kicks the bucket. With me, it was sooner. When I was a boy, my dad, who worked in New York City, would periodically bring home a turtle in a little plastic tank that had a little plastic island with a little plastic palm tree, as is so often found in natural turtle habitats. I was excited about having a pet, and I'd give the turtle a foreign pet name like Scooter. But my excitement was not shared by Scooter, who, despite residing in a tropical paradise, never did anything except mope around. Actually, he didn't even mope around. He moped in one place without moving or even blinking for days on end, displaying basically the same vital signs as an ashtray. Eventually, I realized, it wasn't easy to tell, that Scooter had passed on to that big pond in the sky, and I buried him in the garden, where he would decompose and become food for the zucchini, which in turn would be eaten by my dad, who would in turn go to New York City, where, compelled by powerful instincts that even he did not understand, he would buy me another moping death turtle. And so, the cycle of life would repeat. All right, let's pause for a second. Let's make a connection. Has it happened to you? Has it happened to a friend? Have you ever seen it in a TV show? Where parents tend to replace pets after they die. Have you ever noticed that? Yeah? Oh, so did my mom. I had hamsters too. It's like the thing died when I was at school. Here's another one. Back in the cage. We didn't even know it. All right? Now, kind of keep that in your mind while we continue to read, okay? The idea of a parent replacing a pet. I say all this to explain why I recently bought fish for my 4-year-old daughter, Sophie. My wife and I realized how badly she wanted an animal when she found a beetle on the patio and declared that it was a pet, named Marvin. She put Marvin into a Tupperware container where, under Sophie's loving care and feeding, he thrived for maybe 9 seconds before expiring like a little 6-legged parking meter. Fortunately, we have a beetle-intensive patio, so unbeknownst to Sophie, we were able to replace Marvin with a parade of stand-ins of various sizes. Look! Marvin's gone bigger! Wow! Today Marvin's gone smaller! But it gets to be tedious, going out every morning early to wrangle patio beetles. So, we decided to go with fish. I want you to turn back to this page that we were just at. I want you to go ahead and make this mark with your highlighter now, please. Now, the reason why we're highlighting this is an example of juxtaposition, but it's a little bit cleverly hidden, all right? There's a key idea and detail question all the way in the bottom right corner. And it asks, hey, what's the effect of these ideas? Okay, imagine a 4-year-old child. Generally, 4-year-old children are pretty naive. They see things, they believe it. You tell them things, they believe it. They don't question it a lot of the time. Mommy and Daddy are lying to Sophie. We're not going to let her know that the beetle's died because she's probably going to sob, and then I'm going to feel like a crappy parent, and I don't want to do it. So, she's not watching. She's not watching. Dad, get the beetle! Get the beetle! Put it in the jar! Throw it in the jar. Look! He got bigger, Mommy! Daddy, look, Diddy's smaller. She's naive. She's kind of like a stupid kid. She doesn't realize what's going on. And that's supposed to be a little bit humorous, a little bit funny. We aren't tricking our kids. So what I want you to do with this question is I'm going to have you copy the answer down. Watch the screen, copy it, and then I'll explain it. See, this huge answer that you're writing in the My Notes column, this is something that you're working up towards with your final essay where you analyze a humorous text. We're having to use really precise diction to explain why this moment is funny. And the two words are juxtaposition and incongruity theory. Now, you've seen incongruity theory before. You saw it way back in the day when you were preparing to make a comedy poster. And you had to refer to theories of funniness, theories of comedy. This is one of them. So we can say it's funny because Sophie's naive, she's not realizing that her parents are essentially lying to her, getting rid of a dead creature, putting in a live one. But the way that we explain it with our precise diction is we talk about how this juxtaposition, this comparison of something being big and small is funny. And the reason why this juxtaposition is humorous is because of incongruity theory. It's putting two unlikely items together. Well, it's not possible for one bug to grow huge one day and then small another. It's just not natural. So the humor there is in this child's naive mind, but it's also because of juxtaposition coming into play at the comparison and the incongruity theory, the idea of something being very unlikely put together. Again, this is something you're working towards. So if right now you're looking at this and all you can figure out are maybe 4 words, don't freak out, you'll get there. Once you've copied down your answer, go ahead and turn the page. We're going to continue reading about Sophie. I had fish of my own years ago, and it did not go well. They got some disease like Mongolian thin rot, which left them basically just little pooping torsos. But I figured that today, with all the technological advances we have, such as cellular phones and digital things and carbohydrate-free toothpaste, modern fish would be more reliable. So we got an aquarium and prepared it with special water and special gravel and special fake plants and a special scenic rock, so the fish would be intellectually stimulated and get into a decent college. When everything was ready, I went to the aquarium store to buy fish, my only criteria being that they should be, number 1, hardy digital fish, and number 2, fish that looked a lot like other fish, in case, God forbid, we had to Marvinize them. This is when I discovered how complex fish society is. I point to some colorful fish and say, what about these? And the aquarium guy would say, well, those are great fish, but they do get aggressive when they mate. And I'd say, like, how aggressive? And he'd say, well, they'll kill all the other fish. This was a recurring theme. I point to some fish, and the aquarium guy would inform me that these fish could become aggressive if there were fewer than 4 of them, or an odd number of them, or it was a month containing the letter R, or it heard the song, Who Let the Dogs Out? Turns out that an aquarium is a powder keg that can explode in deadly violence at any moment, just like the Middle East, or junior high school. All right, I want you to make the following mark in 3, 2, 1. So an aquarium is being compared to a powder keg. The Middle East, Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, is being compared to a middle school. We've got 2 comparisons going on here. What is this an example of? What's this highlighted text an example of? We're comparing 2 unlikely things. What do you think, Matt? Good, it's the juxtaposition. So what I'm going to have you do, if you think tomorrow looking at this highlighted thing, you won't remember why you highlighted it, I'd probably write juxtaposition next to it, kind of as a cue. All right, we're going to keep going. True story alert. A friend of mine named David Shore told me that his kids had an aquarium containing a kind of fish called African cichlids. One of them died. So David went to the aquarium store and picked out a replacement African cichlid, but the aquarium guy said he couldn't buy that one. David asked why, and the guy said, because that one's from a different lake. But getting back to my daughter's fish, after much thought, the aquarium guy was able to find me 3 totally pacifist fish, bona fish so non-violent that in the wild, worms routinely beat them up and stole their lunch money. I brought these home, and so far they have not killed each other or died in any way. Plus, Sophie loves them. So, everything's working out beautifully. I hope it stays that way, because I hate zucchini. All right. So right below this story, you folks have a series of 3 questions. Now, question 4, the lack of response from you folks is a very, very big hint as to which level of comedy this is. So step 1 is asking you, okay, would you classify this as high or low comedy? Now, I don't want you to write the answer yet. Don't write it yet. I want you to take about 1 minute and discuss it. Something else I want you to do, check back where you wrote down the difference between high and low comedy and see if you can't use the diction that we had earlier. It took 1 minute to discuss it before we do the big reveal. Twenty more seconds. 20 more. Five, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right, how many of you folks believe this should be an example of high comedy? Okay, good. This is high comedy. Now let's get into the whole description of why. Some of you, I was hearing it, you were doing a great job. Others were just kind of sticking with the basic, well, it's not that funny. Okay, that's not what classifies high comedy. There's other things. So I want you to copy down this response. If you want to add to it, you can. 100% you are right, this is high comedy. Now the reason why it's comedy, yes, it takes a while to process. Yes, you have to think about it. But in terms of the content, you've got to use and listen to the dialogue. You've got to figure out the word play. What exactly are the characters saying here? Well, our characters are narrator, daughter Sophie, the aquarium guy. This is a lot of irreverent humor. It's bringing up the topic of death, but it's bringing light to it. So some people might not find this funny because they literally aren't picking up on the wordplay. They're not realizing the satire and the sarcasticness of how Barry is presenting the topic. All right, now step 5 is a really basic one. How would you, 1, describe the humor, and then what would be the intended response? So for step 5, what I want you to do is I want you to pick one term from page 238. Those are the description of humor terms, and I want you to write that down. And then I want you to pick one term from page 239. Those are the intended responses. So step 5 is really just 2 words that you're writing down. All right, last step, step 6. It's asking you, how does the author use his language to make it funny? So for step 6, I want you to pick one specific phrase or line that you felt was pretty humorous. So maybe the idea of the Mongolian fish rot turning fish into pooping torsos. Or maybe for you, it was that really sarcastic moment of, well, fish attack under this circumstance with a month that has an R in it, or when Who Let the Dogs Out comes on. And while you folks are wrapping up step 6, I'm going to be placing a pink sheet, half size, under your table. You can pass it out once you get it. Thank you. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to bring your attention to this little half sheet that was laid out at your family's table. If you haven't put your name on it, please go ahead and put your name on it. You're going to need the information that you develop on this form for tomorrow. So the more effort you put into it, the easier tomorrow is going to be for you. This is going to be your second analysis of the piece. You're not going to have to do it alone. You can do it with group, you can do it with partner, I don't care. But what you need to have and what you need to know are the elements of humor. And the elements of humor, you have an introduction to. What I want you to do is have your white bookmark in front of you, because this is where you folks wrote down or copied down your definitions of the elements of humor. So on that white bookmark, you're looking for where it says key concepts. You're going to have your list of terms. If you weren't here when we did it, the quarter binder, it's on this back table. All those terms will be there. You'll be able to find them, okay? Now what you've got to do is showcase examples of each one of the elements of humor. That's what this pink sheet is. What I want to do for you is give you examples of each one so you know how to zone in on them. So you're going to watch the screen, and only one of the examples that I give you, you can copy. The others are going to be showing up in a different color. One of them that shows up in red, you can copy it and you can use it. All right? Now, first element of humor, the first row is talk about a comic situation. So the comic situation I decided to write on was the one of Sophie, the author's daughter. The idea that she thinks her Beetle Marvin is literally changing size. I think that's funny. That to me is a good comic situation. Second element, a comic character or a caricature. I went out of the box too. I didn't talk about the author. I didn't talk about the fish. I talked about this turtle, Scooter. He takes this basic caricature of a turtle, a slow-moving creature, and he exaggerates it beyond that. He talks about this thing moping around like a death turtle, which I think is funny. Okay, third element, the hyperbole, the exaggeration. I absolutely love the exaggeration that the Middle East and middle school or junior high is exactly the same, because I think that's true. It's like waiting in the hallways for just someone to snap, and then the fight breaks out, and the swearing breaks out, and it's just hellacious. It's like there's a nuclear bomb in the middle of the hallway. We've all seen it. We all know what happens. All right? Next element is the one-liner. The one-liner is a very simple joke. I love how Barry ends recounting the idea of the zucchini like his dad. The last example, the pun, this is the one I'm giving you that you may copy because it's the only pun in the story. Now, the actual pun, the word that's being made fun of is Marvinize. Marvinize is not a real word. He's using Marvinize to replace, in an ironic way, replacement. So he was bringing up the place, God forbid we have to Marvinize these fish. He was talking about how he had to replace Marvin the Beetle with other beetles. Well, he hopes he doesn't have to do the same thing with these fish. But if he has to, he'll make sure he's ready for it. Now, the rest of the form, you have the remaining class time to work with it. Get as much done as you can. If you don't get it entirely done, it's not going to affect your grade or anything. But if you leave this blank or you don't get all the way through it, it might make tomorrow that much harder for you. This is essentially the only time you're going to be able to chat with people in your group, because tomorrow you won't. So if you want to use the opportunity to have multiple brains working on it, today would be the day to do that. All right, rest of the time is yours.